Hello, grammar enthusiasts, and welcome back to Unit 1 Sentences. This is Lesson 6, Pronouns. You'll find this information in your textbook on pages HB 29 through HB 34. Let's start things off with pronouns. We use pronouns to take the place of nouns so we don't have to write or say the same word or name over and over. Imagine how repetitive our writing would be without pronouns. Little Miss Muffet sat on a tuffet eating Little Miss Muffet's curds and whey. Luckily, we have pronouns. This section is about how to use them for clarity and accuracy. Remember in Lesson 5 we talked about subject-verb agreement and how subjects and verbs have to agree in number and person? Pronouns are somewhat similar. They have to agree in number and gender with their antecedent. Just as a refresher, an antecedent is the noun the pronoun replaces. This sentence, Grandma took her pie out of the oven, has the pronoun her agreeing with its antecedent grandma in gender. In My grandparents spent weekends at their cabin on White Bear Lake, the pronoun their agrees in number with its antecedent grandparents. So what do you do about antecedents that are non-gender specific, like lab technicians? It's common in casual writing to use the plural pronoun as shown here. Every lab technician should always wear goggles to protect their eyes while working with chemicals. That used to be a big no-no in academic writing. Instead, you'd say, every lab technician should always wear goggles to protect his or her eyes while working with chemicals. The casual use of their, which doesn't agree in number, is creeping in more and more to academic writing. I'm usually a strict traditionalist on grammar, but the his/her issue with non-gender specific antecedents is just so clunky and unwieldy that using their instead really has an appeal, especially as we work toward eliminating gender bias from our writing. So the rule here is check with your instructor. If he, she, or they have a preference, follow it. I don't, so don't worry about it for this class. So what do we do with indefinite pronouns? Anyone, each, everyone, and someone are singular even if they seem to be plural or refer to plural nouns. Everyone in the class did his or her best. It's clunky, but grammatically correct. If the awkwardness bothers you as it does me, you can always change the sentence to avoid the issue. All the students in the class did their best. In conversation and informal writing, and increasingly in academic writing as well, they and other plural pronouns are often used to refer to indefinite pronouns that are grammatically singular, such as this Steve Prefontaine quote, "Somebody may beat me, but they're going to have to bleed to do it." Somebody is singular, but he uses the pronoun they, which isn't incorrect. Collective nouns, such as audience, committee, or team, take a singular pronoun when they refer to the group as a whole, and a plural pronoun when they refer to members of the group as individuals. The winning team drew its inspiration from the manager. Here the team is acting as a single unit to accomplish a task, so the pronoun is the singular possessive its. But in the winning team threw their gloves in the air, the individual team members are performing an action, so the plural possessive pronoun there is correct. It used to be that when the gender of the antecedent was unknown, the writer would default to the masculine pronoun. However, that's considered sexist language today, so you should only use he, him, his, or himself when you know the male. Before meeting a new doctor, many people worry about not liking him or her is correct. As we discussed earlier, many writers have begun using they, them, and their to refer to a person whose gender is unknown or not relevant to the context, such as in this sentence. Someone in my building is selling their laptop. They put up a sign by the mailboxes. Acceptance for this usage, known as the singular they, is growing. In addition, some people prefer to use pronouns other than he or she, such as they or ze. You should refer to people using the pronouns they'd use to refer to themselves in the third person. A pronoun usually needs a clear antecedent, a specific word to which it refers, such as, my grandmother spent a lot of time reading to me. She mostly read the standards like The Little Engine That Could. Here, grandmother is clearly the antecedent for she, and that refers to the little engine. If there's more than one word that a pronoun could refer to, rewrite the sentence to clarify which one is the antecedent. For example, in this sentence, after I plugged the printer into the computer, it sputtered and died. The reader doesn't know if it refers to the printer or the computer. So to avoid that ambiguity, change it to the printer. If a pronoun does not refer clearly to a specific word, rewrite the sentence to omit the pronoun or insert an antecedent. This, that, and which are three pronouns that have to refer to specific antecedents. Ultimately, the Justice Department did not insist on the breakup of Microsoft, which set the tone for a liberal merger policy. The way this is worded, we don't know what this last clause, which set the tone for the liberal merger policy, refers to. So let's rewrite it to say, an oversight that set the tone. Now there's no confusion. Except in expressions like, it's raining, or it seems that, they, it, and you should be used only to refer to people or things that have been specifically mentioned. You should be used only to address your reader, and not at all in academic writing. This sentence has a vague subject. In many European countries, they don't allow civilians to carry handguns. The writer needs to specify who doesn't allow civilians to carry, so they should rewrite the sentence to read, many European countries don't allow civilians to carry handguns. See how much less ambiguous that is? On the Weather Channel, it said that storm would hit Key West today. Who is it? Let's reword it to say, the Weather Channel said the storm would hit Key West today. And again, never use you in academic writing. Many doctors argue that age should not be an impediment to physical exercise if you have always been active. To get rid of the you, let's say, many doctors argue that age should not be an impediment to physical exercise for people who have always been active. Both in conversation and in writing, antecedents are often left unstated if the audience will easily grasp the meaning. For academic writing, however, it's better not to use implied or indefinite antecedents. Pronouns change case according to how they function in a sentence. There are three cases: subject, object, and possessive. Pronouns functioning as subjects or subject complements are in the subject case. Those functioning as objects are in the object case. And those functioning as possessives are in the possessive case. In this sentence, we lived in a rented house. We is the subject of the sentence, and so requires a pronoun in the subject case. In I shut the door behind me, the pronoun is the object of a preposition, and so is in the objective case. The possessive case shows ownership. All my life I've loved chocolate. My is the singular possessive pronoun. This chart shows the pronouns in the subjective, objective, and possessive cases. I, me, my, and mine are first-person singular pronouns. By the way, the possessive pronoun never has an S at the end. Mines are holes in the ground. To show ownership, the possessive pronoun is mine. We, us, our, and ours are the first-person plural pronouns. You, your, and yours are the second-person singular and plural pronouns. He, she, it, him, her, it, and his, her, hers, its are the third person singular pronouns. Its without an apostrophe is possessive. It''s its is the contraction of it is. They, them, their, and theirs are the third person plural pronouns. Who, whoever, whom, whomever, and whose are the indefinite pronouns. Use the subject case for pronouns that follow linking verbs, such as be, seem, become, and feel. In fact, Lee was not the one who broke the code. It was I. May sound weird, but it's correct. If you can't get your head around it, just revise the sentence to say, in fact, Lee was not the one who broke the code. I broke it. It has the same meaning, but it seems less odd. When a pronoun is part of a compound subject, it should be in the subjective case. When it's part of a compound object, it should be in the objective case. If you're unsure, drop the compound. Should it be, on our vacations, my grandfather and I, or me went fishing together? Me went fishing is wrong, so it should be grandfather and I. There were never any secrets between he and I, or him and me. This one's a little trickier, but between I sounds wrong. The correct choice is him and me. Often comparisons with than or as leave some words out. When such comparisons include pronouns, your intended meaning determines the case of the pronoun. Surprisingly, the meanings of these two sentences depend on which pronoun you use. You trust John more than me means you trust John more than you trust me. You trust John more than I means you trust John more than I trust him. Pronouns that come before or after an infinitive are usually in the object case. The professor asked Scott and me to tell our classmates about her and our project. In this sentence, Scott and me are receiving the action. They serve as the direct object. Therefore, me must be in the objective case. When in doubt, drop the pronouns partner. The professor asked me is clearly preferable to the professor asked I. The second pronoun, her, is the compound object of the infinitive, to tell. When in doubt, drop the partner. To tell her and not to tell she. Do you remember our old French gerunds? They're ing words that function as nouns. Pronouns that come before a gerund are usually in the possessive case. Savion's fans loved his or him tap dancing to classical music. The gerund is tap dancing, so the possessive case is correct. Now, if we change the sentence just a smidge and add the infinitive phrase to watch in front of the pronoun, the object case is correct. People have struggled with when to use who or whom forever. Here's the 411. Use who and whoever where you would use he or she, and use whom or whomever where you would use him or her. These show up most often in questions and in subordinate clauses. It can be confusing when one of these words begins a question. To figure out which case to use, try answering the question using she or her. If she works, you're going to use who or whoever. If her works, use whom or whomever. Who or whom do the critics admire most? They admire her, so whom is correct. Who or whom will begin the discussion on this thorny topic? She will begin the discussion, so we're going to use who. To figure out whether to use who or whom in a subordinate clause, you need to determine how it functions in the clause. If it's the subject, use who. If it's an object, use whom. Remember, the subject is performing the action, the object is receiving the action. You may invite whoever or whomever you like. Whoever or whomever is receiving the action, which makes it an object, so whomever is correct. I will invite whoever or whomever is free that night. Whoever or whomever is the subject of is free. The clause whoever is free that night is the object of the whole sentence, so whoever is correct. It sounds confusing. Just remember to look at who is performing the action or whom is receiving the action. If you don't know whether to use we or us before a noun, choose the pronoun you'd use if the noun were omitted. We or us students object to the recent tuition increases. If you omit students, you would say we. So we is the correct choice. The state is solving its budget shortfall by unfairly charging we or us students. You'd say by unfairly charging us without the word students. So us is correct. Let's review what we've covered about pronouns. Pronouns must agree with the antecedent in gender and number. With collective nouns, whether you should use the singular or plural depends on whether the group is acting as a whole or if the members are acting as individuals. Avoid sexist language by only using the masculine pronouns when you actually know the antecedent is masculine. A pronoun requires a clear antecedent. Clarify any ambiguities by using the antecedent instead of the pronoun. The pronoun's case depends on its function in the sentence. Use the subjective case, I, we, you, he, she, it, they, or them, when the pronoun is the subject of the sentence, clause, or phrase. Use the objective case, me, us, you, him, her, it, or them, when the pronoun is the object of the sentence, clause, or phrase. The possessive case, my, mine, our, ours, your, yours, his, her, hers, its, their, or theirs, indicates ownership. When you know the pronoun's function, the case is easy to figure out. And look at that! We are already at the end of Lesson 6 Pronouns. Make sure you check Canvas for quizzes on pronouns, and I'll see you next time for Lesson 7, Parallelism. Thanks for stopping by. And thanks to Slides Carnival and Unsplash for making these fabulous templates free. See you next time.